Okay, well, it's great to be here and thanks for showing up. To be or not to be? So Shakespeare posed this question in 1601. Um, I want to get I think we basically have the answer to this. So on a count of three, I want you all to answer it, which the answer is to be, right? So I want to hear loud and clear, bring some positive energy. To be or not to be? We're going to answer Shakespeare. Three, two, one, to be. A little bit louder. I need more energy. Three, two, one. To be. Very good. Okay. So he posed this question and we answered it. In 2025, I'm asking to AI or not to AI. That's the question. And hopefully by the end of this talk, I've convinced you we're going to answer to AI. All right. So my talk is about AI in education. I run an online learning center. I have students of all ages. I teach public speaking, debate, basic science, critical thinking. And what is really important to me is learning. And when I see my students learn and they become passionate about learning, it just brings a smile to my face. And I become very happy about that. So this topic is near and dear to my heart. This talk is basically based on a book chapter that I published in this book, Artificial Intelligence Applications in K-12. There's also another one for higher education if you'd like to purchase it. If not, I can just email me. I'll send you the PDF for the chapter that I wrote. What's on the agenda today? So the subtitle, benefits, I'm going to talk about 4 theoretical benefits of AI. I'm going to talk about 2 concerns, very general, that we basically have in academia. And I'm going to try to offer 2 solutions to these 2 concerns. All right. So there are 4 theoretical benefits, I think, to AI. So I'm going to briefly go over these 4 benefits. Well, tools like ChatGPT, Comingo, Microsoft Copilot, and other large language models are ushering in a new era for both teachers and students. And of course, AI can enhance educational experience, support students, and ease instructors' workload, right? By doing the repetitive task or streamlining the repetitive task. So for example, Van McKillian, 2023 talks about how there's often a gap between new technologies and students' ability to understand and effectively use them. For instance, students might struggle to master how to interact with tools like Comingo and requiring time and training to ask the right questions. So personalized learning is based on the idea that each student has a unique identity. And of course, they have different learning styles. They're going to have different prior backgrounds and knowledge when they come to the classroom. So it's not like each student is equal. Of course, we're not robots, right? So what AI can do, right, and we're just in the infancy stage, is to personalize education or the course content to a level where it's going to meet each student at its best level. Nottingham in 2014, for example, talks about how, so since students vary in their needs and abilities and learning styles, it makes sense that we want to try to change, of course, not completely, but to the extent where it would help the students to maximize their learning capacity. So these systems as acting agent intelligent tutors can help teachers by automating repetitive tasks like providing general feedback, allowing instructors to focus more on critical aspects of teaching. For example, tools like Thermo-Tutor and Synthesis Tutor can track students' actions. It can create profiles and adjust lessons based on the student's ability. So basically personalizing the course content, the literature says, and it could be one theoretical benefit of AI that is going to help the students. The second one is gamification. If you look at teenagers, they can sit in front of a computer, play a game for hours, and even say no to food. They even forget they have to eat food. So that means that's how critical attention is. Algorithm is going to capture our attention. We have to use that tool to help students spend more time learning, be passionate about learning. So Karakova in 2014 highlights gamification as an effective method to enhance motivation and engagement in education. They define gamification as the interaction of game elements and game thinking into a non-game activity. So let me read that one more time. They define gamification as the interaction of game elements and game thinking into non-thinking activities, right? So in this case, a lot of students would probably think, oh, another lecture, I don't want to hear this, it's boring. But if AI could help us design the course content, right, in a better way where we just captured or hijack the students' attention in order to help them master the material, I think it's just for the good. The third element would be emotional recognition, and affective computing. So I said earlier that we're not robots, we're humans, right? Each day we come into the classroom, if we're students, with a different mood. Maybe we had a fight with someone, a friend, right? Maybe someone stepped over our toe on the way to the class, we're not happy about it. Whatever the reason is, and this goes on for the teachers too, right? Teachers are also humans. So our mood changes from week to week, day to day, hour to hour. So what we need to do is use AI as much as we can to balance, basically analyze, like with facial recognition, for example, each student's individually, like who is in the right mood, right? And of course, education is not supposed to only take place in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom. So when some student comes with some emotional baggage, the AI can help us find out, oh, maybe this student is not right now in the best mode for learning right now for this type of material. So technology in education basically has not traditionally accounted for the role of emotions in students, despite their influence on cognitive and emotion-based learning. Recent research highlights the importance of affective domain for both students and teachers. So I cannot stress this enough. Another one is data mining and predictive analytics. I think this goes without saying. We're living in an age where our data is being gathered and sold. Of course, there comes some ethical concerns with that, but can we use that as a tool to enhance students' learning? So I think yes, for the most part. So Dolek et al. In 2020 conducted a comparative study on predictive based approaches, which are proving highly beneficial. They're proving to be highly beneficial in educational contexts. So AI systems equipped with data mining and predictive analytics can support personalized learning. It can support gamification and, of course, emotional recognition. So this can be actually used as a meta tool for all the other three to be maximized and utilized effectively. So, of course, we know AI has some benefits, right? LLMs in particular. And these are just 4 of them, but they're not without concern. So what are the 2, I think, big challenges? One is the challenge of over-reliance on AI. And I think the second one is the challenge of plagiarism and student assessment. The first one is clear. Actually, the second one is clear. The first one is not quite clear. Let me expand that, what I mean by that. So in both K-12 education and higher education, I think we have to care about students' authentic learning experience. So, for example, using AI-powered tools for research and brainstorming can prevent students from engaging in the process of gathering information, critically evaluating their sources, and synthesizing knowledge. So these are essential skills that basically students, based on a sheer of convenience, are going to just give up to AI. And this is the danger zone where they would probably develop a habit of lazy thinking. So without first brainstorming, then maybe consult AI, because AI is nothing but a really good encyclopedia, right? It can generate things. It has access to a lot of information. It's like a library that you reduced. It's like a library that is outside of time and space. So how can we combat this problem? So excessive reliance on AI for solving complex problems can also shield students from some challenges and frustrations and moments of insights. If it was easy, there would be no problem. The fact that you have to put effort to learn something, right? A difficult topic. The fact that you have to have butt power, you have to sit down and read. Students usually, of course, I'm a TA here at the philosophy department. I teach higher education. I also have students that are in elementary school, middle school, high school, and I think one challenge is that they just don't take the time to read. And with AI, it's even going to get worse. Okay, so how can we pass this barrier? Talk and Peak in 2022 categorized 3 types of usage for AI systems. One is copy paste. We think that's terrible. The second one would be interpretation, and the third one assistant. The other two are going to be more plausible and useful, I think, if they're used the right way and properly. Let me talk about the second problem too a little bit, then I'm going to talk about my solutions to these two. So plagiarism. And this goes back to the topic, right to AI or not to AI. So perhaps the most common AI-related fear that educators have is the misuse of AI and LLMs by students in the form of plagiarism. For example, the rise of ChatGPT has caused considerable discussions, debates, and controversies among academics regarding its possible negative impact on issues. So questions such as fair assessment in the age of AI also need to be raised and considered. To what degree should students interact with AI tutor when completing assignments, and how can this be regulated when students are outside of the classroom? So are these are some ethical questions that we need to talk about, I think, in the age of AI and LLMs. And of course, it's inevitable. It's going to get more advanced, right, as we go on. And I think to simply think, oh, students are not going to, use these just because we have a policy in the syllabus might not be enough. Okay. So 2 solutions: intrinsic motivation theory, self-directed learning. This is, I think, is key. It goes at the root cause. We can circumnavigate all the problems, maybe not all, most of the problems that I mentioned, if we just adopt this theory. The second one is straightforward: digital and AI literacy as required courses in K-12 and higher education. So the second one is definitely doable. Instead of even courses, we could have just workshops to do so. But let's talk about the first one, because I think that's the most important. So I'm arguing that intrinsic motivation theory should be at the forefront of every mentor, teacher, instructor. Where what's the definition? So one definition by Legault 2020 defined intrinsic motivation as engagement in behavior that is inherently satisfying or enjoyable. If we're able to train students, give them the mindset that, oh, I just want to learn. I don't care about grades. I don't care about the certificate. Do you think they're going to be tempted to use AI? Because they would know they're undermining their own intellectual growth. So I think the answer is going to be probably not. Probably they're not going to rely on AI in an unproductive way, because the first goal is to learn, right? That's what they want to do. So when students recognize the inherent value of their learning, they are less likely to engage in academic dishonesty and plagiarism. At least that's what I'm claiming, even if the AI tools make it tempting. So intrinsic motivation theory, I think, helps students develop a sense of self-worth and pride in their academic work, making them less inclined to misuse AI. There's some background literature on this. So Ryan and Dekai in 2020 know that traditional educational systems often fail to foster intrinsic motivation, despite its clear potential to improve both students' well-being and their learning outcomes. So after the lectures, we only see maybe 5% of the students come and talk to the professors to ask more questions. The majority leave. Sure, maybe they're late for another class, but I think that's the mindset, right? Self-motivated learning. We want to, I think, see a generation of thinkers where they're interested in learning, not necessarily just getting good grades. Um, so while diplomas, grades, and tests may seem like essential components of education, they're secondary, I think, to the true purpose of learning, acquiring knowledge, and developing skills. Relying solely on these extrinsic factors may lead to misunderstanding to misunderstand the essence of education and compromise their academic integrity. So think about this for a moment. If you're motivated extrinsically, so you just see higher education grades just as an instrument to get a certificate, to get a job, as opposed to intrinsically, right? I think primarily we want to advocate a type of education that doesn't stop in the classroom. Students leave the classroom, they're thinking about the ideas, they're thinking about science, they're thinking about statistics and all the applications. So if students will only use AI improperly, I think students will only use AI improperly if education is forced upon them, if they see no value in learning, and if their goal is solely getting good grades. So as AI tools like LLMs become more accessible, it will be easier for students to plagiarize. To combat this, I think educators must nurture intrinsic motivation and encourage students to see learning as an ongoing pursuit that extends beyond the classroom. Students driven by intrinsic motivation will find no value in plagiarism because their focus is on learning and intellectual growth. So such students will approach challenges with enthusiasm, seeing them as opportunities for growth rather than problems to avoid. The goal is to foster self-motivation, integrity, and self-accountability, reducing the likelihood of students misusing technology. All right. So what's my claim? The best way to prevent AI misuse and plagiarism is to foster intrinsic motivation and self-directed learning, making students see no value in using AI. So as a philosopher, I'm making a claim, and I'm going to back that up with reason, evidence possibly, and different claims. And how am I going to connect those different claims together? I'm going to use logic as the glue to bring those together. So let's see if we can all agree on some of these statements. So students will inevitably use AI in their learning process, maybe the majority we're talking about. And misusing AI, such as plagiarism, plagiarizing, often stems from a lack of intrinsic motivation and self-directed learning. So I'm trying to get to the claim that promoting the intrinsic motivation is going to help us help students not to use AI improperly. All right, so a simple logical argument. I just did it for maybe the logicians in the house. This was not in the chapter that I wrote. So we have a biconditional. So M stands for misusing AI. So misusing AI occurs if and only if students lack intrinsic motivation. So that's a two-way connection. So I'm going to use, by the rules of logic, I'm going to use biconditional elimination to turn that into two conditionals. And I'm going to take that first one, right, and do a contrapositive. I get two double negation on that first item. And I'm going to do a double negation to get that simple one. If I, then not M. And by modus ponens, I'm going to get not M. So what is it that I'm getting at the end? Students will not misuse AI. How? If I think they have intrinsic motivation. What's my second solution? The core idea is that AI literacy must be integrated into our curricula to equip students with skills for a digital era. And there are going to be some key benefits. So by introducing mandatory digital and AI literacy courses, I think schools can help students understand the limitations of AI tools. We talked about hallucination a little bit in the previous talk. So they can learn about its potential flaws and biases, right? Maybe students wouldn't even know how to ask the right question. So that would be part of the curriculum, I think. So students can critically assess the AI-generated answers, not just adopt them blindly. So furthermore, such courses can teach students about the various ways AI can be misused, including improper applications that might hinder their learning and personal development. Okay. So, to AI or not to AI? I said at the beginning, this was the question. I hope I've convinced you. We're gonna say to AI. Of course, it comes with caveats, and we're gonna tackle those problems, right? So on a count of three, I want to hear all of you say to AI if you agree with me. So 3, 2, 1. To AI. Oh, okay, I failed. I need louder. 3, 2, 1. To AI. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna open up for questions. Yes, please.
Do you think it's realistic to hope for situations in which all students, or at least the vast majority of students, have intrinsic motivation?
I've faced this question before, and thanks for bringing it up. Usually, in a class of, let's say, 100 students, you get 5 students that don't really care. They don't show up. They don't listen, right? You get 5 students that go overboard. They go the extra mile. They're great, overachievers. So I think all I want to do is just shift over to a window from the first to the latter. So yes, maybe it's not plausible that all students would achieve intrinsic motivation to the best possible version, but if we could help them, nudge them, so they would take a step toward, adopting that mindset, I just call it a win.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other question, please.
Why are we so quick to declare that using an AI in our homework or our exam or our projects as wrong? I'm thinking back to the famous dialogue between Socrates and Aristotle, where Socrates told Aristotle that using books would make people stupid, and that it was wrong to do. I think about the times when I was not allowed to bring a calculator into an exam because I had to be able to do the calculations by hand. At this point today, nobody considers using a calculator a wrong thing to do. Nobody considers using a book a wrong thing to do. Is it plagiarism for me to allow my Emacs text editor, which is not, it's not that, for those of you who are not familiar with Emacs, it's not the state of the art. But if Emacs corrects my spelling, or if Emacs suggests a different formulation of a sentence, why is that not wrong? So I think I definitely agree about intrinsic motivation, but I really have to push back and say, is the introduction of new tools, does it always have to start out as bad? Or can we acknowledge that this is a really cool new thing and do great things with it and teach our students to use it in good ways?
No, I think you and I are in agreement. It looks like what I was trying to say, that it looks like the problem with plagiarism is that it's just a traditional problem, right? We need to assess students' abilities and learning, and it looks like tests, exams, it's just one way to do it, and we don't want necessarily to. We just want to make sure students have learned something, right? If it's a tool, I think it's great, and I think I'm advocating for the same thing. It's just that we're living in a day and age where diplomas, certificates, grades are just inherent part of the higher education or even primary education. So, for example, the online business center that I have, there are no grades involved. And I can see a huge difference where students are just so open to ask different types of questions. So if I'm talking about maybe the anatomy of the body or the brain, and they have another question, they're open to ask that too. And since I'm not really grading them, right, per se, officially, they're not taking a test to get a grade to pass a course. It's just to help them. I think in that sense, I'm in agreement that they should be able to use the tools. We just have to make sure, or they have to actually make sure, that they understand how to use it properly, right? So for example, I think your name is Alexander Perry, right? Professor Perry. So um, would you say it's okay for a fifth grader who is learning times table to use a calculator? I'm sure you would say no, because the focus there is to help them achieve arithmetic abilities and um, basic mathematics. But for maybe a college student, the purpose is now something else, more advanced concepts in math. So the calculator is just a tool. So in that sense, I think I'm in complete agreement.
So I want to ask what Harry said about the using your tool. Is it like another? We might have to change the curricular over time, because back in the day, education was more simplistic than more complicated right now. So instead of saying for a programming class write a bash script, it'll be more like, okay, write a bash script but use this tool. That they change it, so in that way they can just go to AI and get the answer. They have to do some thinking how to add specific library. In that way they can use AI to help. But so I'm saying it's more like the educator, they have to, because the new tools comes in, they have to change their curriculum too.
Yes, maybe not necessarily for every tool, but I think this is kind of semi-revolutionary where then they have to, because it touches upon so many aspects of the education. Maybe I didn't quite understand your question.
I'm saying maybe they have to change the whole curriculum a little bit more, make it more complicated kind of deal, or make the student think, not just something that can find just like a Googling or putting on the AI kind of.
Oh, I see. Yes, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So I think we have to focus more on critical thinking, and maybe the assignments should be tailored toward maybe group activities. Of course, there's some ways that in the recent literature they're talking about, okay, if you're worried too much about plagiarism, just do handwritten essays and exams and add public speaking components to your course. But sometimes those are not feasible. If you're teaching asynchronous course, I think maybe that's not feasible. But you're right. I think, yes, it has to be incorporated into the curriculum in a sense that it would just maximize their learning. And and of course, intrinsic motivation. And that's easier said than done, right? That's not that easy. It's difficult, I think. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it.